It is 6:30 in the morning, and I wanted to take a moment to be vulnerable and honest with you because I like engaging in these practices of vulnerability and honesty. It is a way to shine my light, and in shining my light, it gives you permission to do the same so that maybe going forward, you'll have these opportunities to be vulnerable with someone and speak your truth. Last night, we were talking about the idea of speaking truths to ourselves, which I'll get to that in a moment. Vulnerability is very powerful, and speaking truths, if you're not already, eventually you will get to the point where you speak your truth at times when it's important to do so, and with people it's important to do so with. And I feel that it's important to do this with you today. I'm one of the collaborators in the living room. I host the Self Love Society, and I recognized in the past 12 hours when I wasn't sleeping that I was denying and withholding love for myself. So my practice is to recognize that so that I can offer myself compassion and bring in that idea of loving myself unconditionally, accepting myself, acknowledging myself, approving of myself, forgiving myself, which all lead to, especially with lots of compassion, lead to the idea of unconditional self love. All right, so last night, week 3 of the Stepping Stones, I brought in the idea of the two foundational practices, which are cultivating curiosity and honest self-exploration. I used this process. So this is it's a 4-question technique that I use myself and that I use with my coaching clients. Sometimes I throw in a 5th question, which I believe is very powerful, but we'll get to that eventually, not in this video, but in the Stepping Stones. So last night I introduced the first 2 questions, and I had an experience last night and this morning where I used this technique. I let myself use the questions. I asked myself the questions, and I wanted to share that with you. So the first question is, in this moment, what am I experiencing? This question drops you into the present moment, and it opens the door for curiosity. The second question is, for this moment, can I allow this to be here? Can I not fight with my experience? Can I not run away from it or ignore it or deny it? Most of the times when I use these questions, the answer is yes. But sometimes, maybe for you, it might be a hard no. Like, no, I'm not ready to do this, because there's a time to do this work and there's a time not to do this work. So if you ask yourself the question and you're like, nope, I don't want to deal with this right now, then you go on with your life and you can address it at some other point, especially when it comes up again. Before I move on, I want to share with you a process that all humans go through, and I talked about this last night. An event happens. We get triggered in some way. There's some sort of situation that is not our preference, and life has put it in front of us. We immediately begin to have thoughts around the event or the situation. The thoughts are stories that we tell ourselves in our mind. And if we're not aware of it, a lot of times, I don't have a statistic for you, most of the time, the stories that we create when we're triggered are rooted in childhood issues, childhood wounds, childhood trauma that are influencing our lives in negative ways as an adult. So an event happens, we're immediately triggered, and we immediately have a thought around what has happened. That thought immediately generates a feeling or an emotion. And if the thoughts, the stories in our head are negative, then we're going to be generating a negative feeling, a negative emotion. The event, the story we create, and the feeling or emotion that is generated from it dictates our behavior. So, what can happen for me personally, in my experience in my life, is when I'm triggered in some way and the negative thoughts come up, negative feelings or lower vibrational feelings are generated, then my behavior is typically shows up as the need to control, being very short tempered, irritable, angry, not present. Because I'm all up in my head and I'm all in my story and I'm all in the emotion and all I want to do is lash out irrationally. This is how the not being aware of this process that we all go through, how it dictates our behavior and influences our behavior, oftentimes in negative ways, which can be hurtful to the people we love, but it's also hurtful to ourselves, and it's denying love for ourselves. It's denying compassion for ourselves. All right, so last night I noticed I wasn't present with my family. I was all up in my head about things and just, I guess, on a little on the irritated side. I definitely noticed that. So before I went to sleep last night, I sat with it. I said, all right, practice what you preach here, Shauna, which in my defense, I do all the time anyway. And I asked myself, in this moment, what am I experiencing? I was experiencing this voice that tells me I suck, that I'm never going to amount to anything. I was noticing feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness. And those were leading to that behavior of not allowing myself to be present with my family last evening. So I asked the second question. All right, for this moment, and I wish I had brought my journal down because I journaled so much of it out. And I was like, oh, bring that downstairs when you do your video tomorrow so you can look at your notes. All right, anyway, where was I? I totally lost my thought. So I asked, can I let this be here? Can I not fight with this? Can I not run away with it? Can I sit with it? Face it and feel it? And the answer was yes. So I allowed myself to listen to the stories, to feel the emotions, to just let it all be there. And more awarenesses came. I started to explore. I had already started to explore, but I went deeper. Because often what happens is we have triggers or whatever you want to label it. We have these situations and events, but we stay surface level. We don't go in really deep. And we sure as hell don't become honest with ourselves. But I did that. I went in and I just wrote. I wrote down everything that the stories were saying, even the stories that the feelings and emotions were telling me. I looked really honestly at my behavior of not being present when I really want to be present, and not giving myself compassion, which is a denial of self-love. And that leads to the third question, which I touched upon last evening in the Stepping Stones. The third question is, in what way can I infuse the situation or offer myself compassion? So I took a moment to turn inward again, eyes closed, hand at heart center, and I connected with a younger version of myself, and I had a lovely conversation with her. And I told her that I was so proud of her for what she's doing. She's taking physical action on the things that excite her. She is learning her way, and even though she may have been nervous, even though maybe she didn't say the right thing or do the right thing, she's taking a risk. She's doing the things she loves to do. There's nothing wrong in that. There's everything right in it. And I know I didn't give you the exact example of my trigger, and I didn't share with you the exact things I was thinking or feeling. I gave you some idea. I basically told her she's doing a great job and that I support her and I love her and she needs to keep going because she's doing a kick-ass job. That's how I bring compassion to myself and the situation, by acknowledging what's going on, the parts of me that are alive and active, the parts of me that get triggered, that are looking, those parts of us are looking for, I'm not sure if I said this at the beginning or not, but they're looking for our undivided, non-judgmental, loving attention. And that's how we can infuse the situation, the experience, how we can shower ourselves with compassion by taking a moment to acknowledge what's going on, to acknowledge that wounded younger part of ourselves or parts of ourselves, by having a conversation with them. It's, in a sense, a way to reparent, speaking to myself in a way that is compassionate, like a mother, like the good enough mother would speak to her child, in a way that is understanding and supportive, loving, encouraging. And after that little conversation, I felt better. Then I went right to sleep. This morning I woke up and I was still noticing it a little bit. Like, oh, it's still there. All right, I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to pile on more shit on top of it and beat myself up because I'm still in it this morning. Like, we got to stop doing that. We beat ourselves up enough. So I took a moment to just check in again, have a little conversation, and then the energy dissipates. It shifts, it's released, and we find peace within. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Before I let you go, though, I call this the new narrative, a new narrative. I shared with you that process that we all go through, the event, the thought, the feeling, the behavior. I didn't mention it, but then there's an outcome, and oftentimes the outcome is not our preference. A new narrative is the ability to notice when you're triggered. And instead of catching that wave and riding it out and going through what you typically go through, you choose differently. And that's awareness. I'm triggered. Let me start going through these questions right now because I want to choose differently within me. I don't want this negative thought because I know this negative thought is going to generate a negative feeling or emotion. It's going to, I forget the word I wanted to use, influence my behavior in a not so preferred way, a negative way, and the outcome is not going to be what I want it to be. So what positive, uplifting story can I tell myself around this event? Because when you tell yourself a more loving, supportive, uplifting, positive story around whatever's happening, you automatically generate higher vibrational feelings and emotions. And that influences your behavior in a positive way, and your outcome of whatever this situation is will be positive. It will be more loving, more compassionate. So that's something, a new narrative. We're going to be talking about that more deeply, in more depth, in one of the weeks of the Stepping Stones. But for now, I encourage you, really support you and invite you in cultivating more curiosity in your life and going deeper than surface level, looking at yourself honestly and speaking the truths to yourself, those uncomfortable ones that maybe you've been avoiding. Begin to speak those truths to yourself. No one else has to know, just you. These practices lead to increased self-awareness. Awareness is the precursor to change. If you want to learn how to love yourself and offer yourself compassion, which is needed so much in our female community, we were taught not to give ourselves compassion. Compassion was for everyone else. We've been taught to be the good, self-sacrificing woman. We just have to beat ourselves up and be really hard on ourselves, but everybody else gets compassion from us. It's bullshit. We need to be offering ourselves compassion by using these questions. The first two to start with, we cultivate more self-awareness. When we become more aware of ourselves, then we can start to make positive changes because we're aware of it. And in those positive changes, we offer ourselves more compassion. We learn to be more present with ourselves. And we learn how to accept, acknowledge, approve of, forgive, and ultimately love ourselves unconditionally. I hope you all have a beautiful day. See you next week for the stepping stones.